Oh, the nerd muscles get to flex. Welcome aboard SB80. It is time for Retro Trekkers, the show where your pals, your old Star Trek loving pals get together and lead a conversation that you are, of course, are invited to. And we've got a very special guest on the show. But first off, let me introduce the crew of SB80. It's me, and this man right here, it's Commander Joe Townsel. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Captain John. Again, I want to wish you a retroactive happy birthday, since we kind of had an issue on Sunday with our show, as everyone knows about by now. Enough about that. But I'm always so happy to be here with you.
Thank you, sir. Our good friend, Chris Rulbach, who is here. He says your gag writer is here. I write, you gag. Chris paid me the loveliest compliment about our show, which was it would not be the first birthday party I ever attended that was closed down by the cops.
Oh. That is perfect.
The fact that YouTube said nope and yanked us off the air, it's just all in keeping. It ain't a party till something gets broken. And let's introduce our special guest for the week. Eric Kramer is with us now. Eric usually hails in from his own craft, his own space station. But if you will allow me, I'll show. There he is. Right across the room from me.
Score!
Eric is under the Crisis on Infinite Earths poster.
Is this some kind of harebrained transport malfunction? What's going on?
No.
I'm quite happy. He buys me lunch and I get to drink all his booze. It's actually a pretty sweet setup.
No, it was just a little startling at first, because I thought I was seeing like the Enemy Within Part 2 for a moment there. There was two Erics.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, it kind of is in keeping with this episode, is it not? Because isn't there a point where Riker is in the holodeck and he's in the holodeck with another Riker?
That is true. We'll talk about that.
This is going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of great people with us. William is with us. Hello, William. Welcome. LLAP, my friend. Ensign Wells is with us. We've got, where is he? I got a good one for him. Rafael Rosario. Ensign Rosario is with us. Just watched a 10-minute review of this episode I have never seen. You know, honestly, I'm glad for you.
That's the best way to watch this one.
We're, of course, talking about the final episode of Star Trek Enterprise.
What is it?
And it was some would say poorly made. But some people, Joe, our very own Commander Townsel, is one of the people who can defend this one, which is great.
Hey, you know what? It's not a classic in my mind. I just don't have the hate for it that most people seem to. I understand that, but I think there's redeeming qualities here, which I think I can explain away partially when we get to Down and Dirty for sure.
And that's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic that someone can loan some credibility to this episode. Let's take a quick look at it. It is the 22nd episode of the 4th season of Enterprise. It first aired on...
when they made 22 episodes a season.
And that
which never seemed like a lot at the time. Right?
No, it didn't.
Now, they only did 22 at that point at Scott Bakula's insistence.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were doing 26 for the whole 18 years pretty much. And finally, Bakula for seasons 3 and 4 of Enterprise said, that's too much. So they cocked it down to 22 for the last 2 years.
I mean, that helped them save on the budget, so that's a good thing, too. They were definitely under the whip about trying to keep costs down in the last 2 seasons of Enterprise.
But as Eric points out, nowadays, that makes it seem like it runs year-round if there's 22 episodes. My God.
Yeah, you know, when most streamers make 10 episodes.
Yeah. Once
That
every
is
2
a
years.
good amount. Excuse my burp. I'm drinking beer with my friend Eric.
That's okay. That's what that's.
We're drinking his beer. That's the best beer.
This episode is called These Are The Voyages. It was directed by Alan Croker, who I don't know, but it was written by stalwart Star Trek end of the 20th century guys, Rick Berman and Brannon Braga. Some people say good things about them. Some people do not. And with all of that set up, fellas, do you think we're ready to get into the beats?
Yes!
I think it's the perfect time.
All right. Let's introduce it.
Retro Trekkers. These are the voyages of the starships Enterprise, which come to a mind-boggling and mixed-bag conclusion after 18 consecutive years of Trek. Time has passed since last week's episode. You can tell because the uniforms now have name tags, and some computer monitors stuck on poles have been installed all over the bridge. So the good ship Enterprise and crew are wrapping up 10 years in space, presumably after 2 back-to-back 5-year missions are now in the books. The ENX-01 is on her final mission, now about to be decommissioned. But first, a treaty signing which will lay the groundwork for the founding of the United Federation of Planets. Archer is bumbling through draft after draft of a speech he is to give at the upcoming ceremony. All senior officers are called to the bridge and, shocker, William T. Riker freezes the program. Turns out we're not on the NX-01. We're in the Enterprise D holodeck. Yes, for better or worse, TNG has hijacked the Enterprise series finale. Undeniably, Jonathan Frakes is 11 years older and a few pounds heavier than in the era in which we are seeing him again, specifically TNG Season 7. But we'll do our best to suspend disbelief. Plus, it helps the illusion that Marina Sirtis hasn't aged a single day. Next, Riker sits intent forward with Troy. Hey, how come we can see Riker twice in the same location at the same time? Why didn't someone inspect this stock footage? Anyways, Riker and Troy are discussing the conflict with the treasonous Section 3111 Admiral Pressman. Again, see the TNG Season 7 episode, The Pegasus. Now, for some odd reason, Riker thinks this holo program will help him solve his ethical dilemma. Troy advises him to skip the boring dull stuff and fast forward ahead in the program. Back on the NX-01, Archer gets a call from our favorite 22nd century Andorian, Shran. Oh hey, I thought someone bummed you off 3 years ago. Nope. And I need your help, Pinkskin. Someone has kidnapped my daughter. Riker skips ahead another hour. The ever-logical Vulcan T'Pol objects to helping Shran. Well, we do owe him one for helping us obtain the Xindi superweapon. Still not convinced, and for some reason, T'Pol goes to the galley to speak to Chef. Hey, we finally get to see Chef, and guess who he looks like? Jonathan Frakes playing Riker, playing Chef. Interesting, especially when you consider that William Shatner himself was once tapped to play Chef at some point. Apparently, Chef plays the roles of McCoy, Troy, and Guinan in the role of future ship's counselors. T'Pol mentions, with some regret, that she and Trip broke up 6 years prior. Now T'Pol seems irritated. Why are these TNG actors crashing our Enterprise finale party anyway? Needing a break from counseling Barclay again, Troy pops in as Riker looks over the Pegasus crew manifest. For pure entertainment and voyeurism value, the future Rikers decide to add more players to the simulation. Trip and Reed shoot the breeze. Seeing the handsome young engineer sparks Troy's knowledge of ancient Enterprise history. She recalls that Trip isn't going to come back from their rescue mission on Rigel 10. Whoa! Say what? Another fast forward. The crew arrives on Rigel 10. Actually, the very first planet they visited in the pilot episode. And now, it will be the last during the series finale. Shran and T'Pol chat with the kidnappers. Shran's daughter, a cute little Andorian tyke, is just fine. The away team is rattling on the catwalks above, distracting everyone below. Shran has his chance to escape with his daughter. During the inevitable phaser fight, the catwalk under Trip is shot, and he's saved from falling to his doom. Still alive, for now. I guess Troy got the timing wrong about Trip's untimely death.
He didn't get the Generations death.
So, back on the Enterprise D, Riker meets with Troy as they get closer to the Pegasus. Brent Spiner does a voice cameo. And who the hell cares? We've seen this TNG rerun a dozen times. What's happening back on the NX-01? Chef plays sounding board to Reed, Hoshi, Mayweather, and Phlox in some kind of odd therapy KP montage. But that's okay, because all of them were almost squeezed out entirely to make room for Riker and Troy in their finale episode. Ultimately, however, it is pointless, including an inappropriate allusion to Malcolm's sexuality thrown in for good measure.
Crazy.
Shall we go back to the Enterprise D after all? No. Instead, we cut to Archer and Tucker toasting to the next generation. Wink, wink. Helmsperson, set a course for the voyage home. Again, wink, wink. Is this too subtle? How about Reed's comment about all good things? But not so fast. Cut the joviality. Suddenly, the NX-01 comes under attack. After intruders board the ship with unbelievable ease, Trip charges off to kick some fugly alien butt. The aliens who Shran attempted to screw over are soon stopped in their tracks. So, everything is hunky-dory, right? Archer is safe, and security will be on the scene in moments. So, naturally, Trip decides to pull the most lame brain self-sacrifice in all of Star Trek history. Time to electrocute and fry himself by grabbing a hold of 2 lethal live power cables. Killing himself is a sure way to protect his ship, which clearly didn't need saving at that point. Cut 2. Enterprise Series Finale Writers Conference Room. Oh hey, it's the final episode of our prematurely canceled Trek series. We need someone to go out with a bang. It's a sure bet we'll never see these characters again, except maybe for T'Pol on some Star Trek Lower Decks animation series. So, which character should we kill for no reason? Well hey, how about Trip? Great idea. Who cares if we make him look like a doofus at this point? So that's that for Charles Trip Tucker. Or is it? We are watching a 200-year-old history recreation after all. Maybe Riker is relying on historical records falsified by Section 31 or something of that nature. Hey, it's as good a theory as any, right?
True.
But it does remain to be seen, even in our year 2025. Meantime, Trip dies in sickbay, Archer sheds a few tears for his buddy, and life goes on. Riker rewinds the program a bit to have a heart-to-heart, as chef, with Trip as the laid-back engineer eats a carrot. Final fast forward. We finally arrive at the day of the big ceremony. Archer is dressed to the nines in his fancy dress uniform. T'Pol is looking fetchin', and Phlox offers one of his freakish Cheshire Cat grins. Archer and T'Pol have an awkward hug. The rest of the crew have been assigned to the nosebleed seats for the big event. Archer walks the plank to give his big speech, which we never hear, But that's okay, because Deanna Troi had to memorize the speech in grade school, so maybe she can recite the historical speech for us sometime. So we never get to hear Archer's speech because Riker has finally gotten over his crisis of faith and ends the holodeck program.
He had faith of the heart.
Yes, it's time to fess up about Admiral Pressman's shenanigans involving a Federation cloaking device, and talk to understanding Captain Picard. Oops, another inconsistency. In the original Pegasus TNG episode, Riker is actually coerced into talking by Picard himself. So maybe this isn't an alternate history program after all. Maybe this whole mess is taking place in yet another alternate reality or mirror universe. Wait a damn minute. Come to think of it, is this the way the Enterprise NX-01 will always look? No. Well, not if you've seen Star Trek Picard Season 3. So, after 18 straight years of Trek on TV, we begin a 12-year intermission until Star Trek Discovery. In one of the few truly cool moments of this weird TNG Enterprise crossover, we get to see the three most famous starships in the franchise cruise by as their captains, Picard, Kirk, and Archer, recite the famous "These are the Voyages" speech. Let's make sure that history never forgets the name Enterprise.
And there you go. There you go. I don't know that I should put this up, but forgive me. I was just going by.
I watching hollow porn, so it's okay.
I loved that picture of the two of them because A, she looks amazing, but B, he looks like me in profile now, and I don't feel so heavy.
And I tell you, that is not Photoshop. That is a still from the episode. So
seriously,
when I put that in the beats, I meant it. She looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Not so much Jonathan Frakes, but we love him. So
hey,
we'll let it
Frakes is Frakes.
I love that guy.
Have you ever met Frakes?
Yes, I've worked with him. He's directed me.
Oh my God! In what?
In the Librarians episode of the Librarians.
Oh wow! I didn't realize he was directing some of those.
Super great, super cool guy. Really like fast, efficient, really good director.
Well, what isn't his nickname like one take or two takes Frakes or something like that?
Because he just moves, man, but it's great. Like you never feel you're in awkward hands.
Right.
You know, like he's it's like he's the commander of the fucking Enterprise.
There you go, Ty Lord. Ty Lord, you make the request and we grant it. Put the picture of Troy up. Boom!
Well, that is a good angle for her too.
That's a particularly good angle. But I'm feeling better that Frakes looked like that.
Now, can you put up the next slide, the last one? I just want to say something about that.
And that would be
this one after this.
This one here. Yeah.
I just want to say that I meticulously, if I say so myself, this is the narration, obviously. First it was Picard, then it was Kirk, then it was Archer, and they said these exact portions, each of them, of the narration. So it is true to form, gentlemen.
That is fantastic.
I was so happy I could make Eric into Kirk for the first time.
You make a fine Kirk, Eric.
I think so too.
You know, a much younger, more in shape version of me.
Let's see. William says, I met Jonathan Frakes and his wife back in 2004. I hope they were nice to you, William. I assume they were. Now his wife, Jeannie Francis.
Yeah.
She was on General Hospital, I think.
That's correct.
Oh yeah. I honestly, I never knew that. My wife told me that, and I remembered it. That's how that ended up. Chris sent me. We asked for clips for my birthday. You know, it's like, hey, what are your guilty pleasures? And Chris sends me a clip of Soupy Sales. Apparently, somebody on the show had hired a stripper, and it's Soupy Sales opening up. There's a knock at the door. He opens up the door, and there's this topless woman just shimmying. And she shimmies for like 3 solid minutes, just topless. And Soupy's doing the old, like, he's doing the old, it was really funny. And I was like, damn, Chris, I can't use this.
Well, he actually commented on that to me a little bit later, and he said, you know what? He knew that, but he said it was a birthday gift for John.
Right.
Happy birthday, John.
Is it still sounding echoey? Is anybody
especially Eric?
Oh, why are we getting echoey with Eric?
It started kind of not long after we started the show. It was perfect before in the green room. So.
Right.
Yeah, it was. I can move. I can move over to the guest house. That's right. John has a guest house.
Everybody go.
This is one of many buildings on his estate.
I live on a simple avocado ranch where the fire came through and destroyed.
15-minute drive up his driveway.
That's not true.
Not true. Should I move to the guest house?
It's really bad, huh? The echoing?
Yeah. All right.
I'm afraid so, guys. I hate to continue with it like that.
That's fine. We've got other stuff we can do while Eric's doing that. Because
what is it? 45 minutes to the guest house?
Better start running, Eric.
When you get out to the Sherpas, ask for Mukhluk. He knows everything about the guest house.
All right, perfect.
Well, one thing we can do to kill a minute is acknowledge Chris's great joke here about genital hospital.
Walk with me. Walk with me. Walk with me over to the guest house.
This is already my favorite episode.
Walk with me over to the guest house.
Yeah, I'm getting that David Letterman vibe now when he
so
gets back.
this is where John keeps the bodies.
This is so funny because you're getting to see all of this stuff. My terrible garage.
Here we go.
Raphael says, "Don't forget your beer, Eric." There's lots more beer where he's going.
Fortunately, I'm going to the fridge where the beer lives.
That's the real motivation for going to the guest house, I think.
There is an endless supply, as long as 12 beers is endless.
I've never seen other parts of John's house before.
He's going to take you out on the land. There.
Here we go. This is.
Oh, you can hear right there. The echo's gone.
I don't know if you can
see
these flashing red lights. Those are fake snakes that John has out to stop the rats from getting to his crops.
This is true. We actually got these flashing lights that supposedly scare away rats. Eric, if you fall and hurt yourself, I'll lose everything.
There we go.
That may be my only income this year.
I was going to say personal injury lawsuit time. Come on.
All right.
Raphael says, post-acting career, Eric, you can be a tour guide.
Hey, you're working hiring?
All right, here we go.
Chris, I normally don't use this much of my home. I just stay in this room, honestly.
We actually cooked a little mac and cheese.
Oh.
The best damn mac and cheese I have eaten in most of my life.
Coming soon to a YouTube channel near you.
We've been working on a cooking show with Eric. And
so is this where you did some of the cooking today in the guest house or on the way?
We shot some beautiful mac and cheese footage.
We did the beauty shots today. Boy, this is a lot like Star Trek, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, here we go. Oh.
Hang on, I'm gonna change
yes.
In addition to making for a fine segment of all of its own, I do enjoy hearing Eric without losing him in the echo. So
it was, he had offered a long time ago, I can just go down to the guest house. And I was like, no, we can make this work. we totally could not make it.
We thought,
Well, like I said beforehand, we were fine, but something happened when we went live.
Yeah.
Maybe StreamYard didn't like it. Oh well.
Well,
all
right.
right. The whole thing like this.
There you go. I like that angle. That one's better though.
Eric, tell the folks what KGB stands for.
Kramer's Grill and Bar.
Oh.
Which was many years ago playing poker. My the dream was always to have like my own place, restaurant, pub, whatever. So one night during a poker game, we all decided to come up with a name, and I came up with Kramer's Grill and Bar because you could call it the KGB for short.
That's awesome.
And even when we sobered up, it still sounded like a good idea.
So it must have been a good idea.
It must be good.
Reminds me of the Hughleys poker games.
Oh my God. There you go.
Yeah.
That was my first episode on the Hughleys, by the way, was the poker game, the first poker game.
You're both great in it. Check it out, guys. I'm not sure you find the Hughleys, but it's got to be
dressing
somewhere.
room I've ever had in this industry.
Yeah.
Was sitting with John and just telling jokes and shooting the shit, and I've never had a better time.
That was a great show. It was really funny. Eric was playing the white best friend of DL Hughley, and I played the white best friend's white best friend. And it was so great. William says you should make a mac and cheese steak sandwich.
You could. You know what? You do that. Remember when I was telling you can like freeze the mac and cheese and then bread it and deep fry it? Put it on sandwiches that way.
Oh my God.
All right, guys, we're getting some good ideas for the new cooking show, and I'm happy we can talk about it. Since Eric brought it up, I didn't want to spoil any surprises, but you'll hear me mentioning it now, quite a bit. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, we're going to.
There's already. Go to the Kramer's Grill and Bar on YouTube. I think I have -6 subscribers. There's already some videos up there.
Chris says, my friend Des was an audience coordinator on the Hughleys. Never got to meet the audience coordinator. Did you, Eric? Des?
Yes, Des.
Can you give us a last name, Chris? Would you be comfortable doing that? He said earlier.
Arnaz, we know he's fibbing.
He said earlier there was a radio station in San Diego I worked at called KGB.
I remember KGB. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were a San Diego guy for a while.
Oh yeah, for 30 years. Yeah, so I definitely remember KGB.
Holy cow! Oh no, that's all right, Chris. That's all right.
Oh, it's a private thing. I get it.
Well, I see. I just assumed at this age it's like, no, I know it, but but no.
What do you enjoy most about it?
Find my way to the guest house, let alone if I can find my way home tonight. I'll be a happy man.
I think we can all say that. And I'm just going over the Raphael's point. It's like, hey, did you watch Trekkers? Yeah, it was really great. What was the best part? Beats, down to dirty? No, it was Eric's walk to the guest house.
That was really awesome. Raphael, you hit it on the head with a sledgehammer. Trek episode so bad the tangent is more entertaining.
Well, should we talk about how bad it was, guys?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I'm curious as to how you're going to defend this. That's what I'm curious about.
Well,
like I said, it's not a total defense, but I do have some things to say that might redeem it somewhat.
Well, then let's get down and dirty. And let's put those opinions, however cruel or kind or giving or generous, lay them on the table. Let's hear everybody's. What do you think? What do you think of the last episode of Star Trek Enterprise? A show that really tried to find itself, especially in that final season when they did some really good episodes and some good storylines. And the very last episode is basically like the video equivalent of Riker looking through a scrapbook about,
and who, by the way, gets more airtime than anybody else in that final episode. Like, look, again, I don't, whatever. I find that I find it disrespectful.
Yeah.
Completely disrespectful that's how you say goodbye to a cast that gave you 4 years, 20, over 100 episodes or close to.
They finally clocked in 98. So yeah, right there.
Like 98?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Are you kidding me? That's how you say goodbye to your series. Like, that's an episode that comes maybe in the final season. Maybe 6 or 6 or 7 episodes before the final.
Yeah. Now, Joe, did they know that this was the final episode of this series, that there would be no more?
At this point, they did, because Enterprise was canceled during the filming of In a Mirror Darkly. So they knew it was coming. The concept of this episode actually was envisioned in the 3rd season as a possible finale, but then it got renewed. But so it was already well in their heads, at least. And when they knew for sure they were leaving, they said, okay, let's dust it off and get it on there as the finale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying you don't do this as an episode, but Jesus Christ, like, your final episode.
Well, as part of my, this is going to be a weak defense, because it's basically using the what they could have done. So you got to judge the reality for sure. But I prefer, like many people, I prefer to think of this not as the final episode. I think the previous 2, Demons and Terra Firma, the 2-parter, was just before this. That was the finale. I see this as an epilogue or a coda.
Oh,
if you look at it in those terms, it works, because it's not really, doesn't have that weight of a finale. And again, I know I'm just asking people to say, okay, yeah, wink, wink, pretend with me. And as Eric says, absolutely, it could have been a very a nice, entertaining episode any other time. Take out Tripp's stupid, meaningless death. That's why I choose to believe, like many people, that it's some kind of Section 31 falsification. He's actually was still around, but we'll never know for sure. Maybe. Right. But yeah, it could have been a decent episode otherwise, but it just wasn't. It was just misused, if it is the kind of thing I can say about it.
To answer the question, was this Jonathan Frakes under a pseudonym? It was not. Alan Croker was a director in Canada and has worked on many, many different shows, a lot of them on cable or syndicated, not a lot of network shows. So he has directed episodes of Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica. I don't know if you remember the shows Wonderfall or True Calling, Jake 2.0, which was a UPN show at one point, Firefly, Roswell, Andromeda, Charmed, William Shatner's Tech War, and some episodes of Supernatural, as well as some other fairly well-known shows. So Alan Croker was a real guy doing real work. I don't ever blame, when it comes to TV, it's kind of foolish to blame the director.
Well, only if it's badly directed, which this wasn't.
Yeah. Well, what was okay, that is a good joke right there. Just thought, why else would he get all the screen time? One of the things that I always try to tell people is, when it comes to television, especially, directors are not what directors are on movies, where frequently the director is his taste and it's his brain on the screen. It's a lot different on TV. Eric, can you find a better way?
You're a hired gun. So you're come in, and your job, by the way, is to keep continuity in regards to how the series looks, plays. Like, it's not for you to go in and start mucking stuff up. It's your job to do your job, man. Do your job, man.
And if you've got 1 or 2 takes frake, you know, he's bringing it in on time. He's coming in on budget. He's not extending the days. If he's able to nail things in 1 or 2 takes, people get to go home earlier. It's a very important element to television, the director.
Yeah.
But Eric, you've directed.
And I tell you what, with like 1 hour days, you're making sausage, man. Like, you know, that's not to say you can't create really good television, but you are under such insane time constraints, you know, that you really just need to produce. You just need to produce and stay true to what the show is.
People don't quite get, you know, in television, we don't rehearse usually. You know, there's very little rehearsal. You know, you really try to knock it out in one, and sometimes they don't even really look at Williams. Frank makes pizza now. Well, Riker makes pizza now.
Yeah, Frank is still chugging along and as a director.
Oh boy. No, he's really in demand as a director. And I wonder if that would
and as he should be. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like maybe, you know, I gotta put this one on Brandon Braga and on Rick Berman.
Who both expressed regret, you know, subsequently.
And I don't know if they feel that regret because they hear constantly how bad this ending was, or if they really directly felt, you know, I never saw a reason why this was done. Has anybody heard any scuttlebutt?
No, I know exactly why, and I can see what they were trying to do, but where they failed, and it was the last episode of Star Trek after 18 consecutive years on television. They wanted this to be a love letter to the fans. That's their words, not mine. They wanted this to be a love letter to the fans and be an overall celebration of the entire franchise.
Yeah,
it just didn't work.
Yeah, it's a rough one. I never quite fell in love with all the characters on Enterprise. I like a lot of them, but I have to say, Bakula, man, why would you mess with Bakula? There was
all the actors involved were pretty miffed, as you can imagine.
Yeah,
you know, this is our show. Why are we? I mean, we're bringing back TNG folks after 11 years, and it was a sequel of sorts to a kind of a mediocre episode of TNG in the first place.
Right. Not a legendary episode of TNG by any means.
Yeah.
One of the things that makes me sad is Bakula was a huge get. Like if you ever go onto YouTube and you watch any of these shows about failed pilots, one of the ones that they talk about is oh god, there's like 4 or 5 of them that starred Scott Bakula. Scott Bakula was there. It was like there was a mandate to get him on television.
Yeah.
After Quantum Leap, he's great, does a couple movies, kind of disappears, not doing a whole lot, and then oh my gosh, then he was in American Beauty. Do you remember that?
Oh yes, absolutely. One of the gay neighbors, if I can put it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he starts showing up on TV again. And then I remember them announcing this. It's like, well, who's the captain going to be? It's going to be Scott Bakula. Oh, well, that might be pretty good. I mean, he's definitely somebody
who called. I mean, perfect for the role, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they tried to get real star power at the time with Genevieve Vougeot for Voyager, but now, of course, we know what happened there. That did not work. So they course corrected very successfully with Capt'n, but Bakula was a natural from the beginning. We had Quantum Leap.
Yeah,
we knew he had a terrific range in his acting portrayals of various characters, and I think the show started very strong as a result. Say, yeah, let's check out Scott Bakula in this Enterprise show. But unfortunately, the writing let him down for a long time, and this was a prime example.
Yeah. And that's right. William Wells points out that he then, after this, did NCIS Miami. And that, of course, oh, wait a minute. Raphael, correct him, New Orleans. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah.
Flobo loves NCIS. He loves CSI. He loves NCIS.
All those alphabet shows or acronym
yeah.
shows, as I call them.
So, I mean, if we're gonna get down and dirty, we gotta at least try to look at the bright side, and that is when we. Whoop. That's when we come up with an MVP. Is there anybody who made this episode work for you, who made you happy? Let's start with you, Eric. Any MVP for this episode?
No.
Okay, moving on.
Do you know what I mean? It's like it's just again, it's like how do you I don't understand that this is how you say goodbye or thank you or whatever.
Right.
You want to know who I think the MVP is the original Enterprise ship. Nothing beats that design.
And it was here, so that works.
But and you know, when I say no, that I'm not taking a swipe at anybody.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like,
oh, definitely.
Everybody got completely shortchanged in that cast.
That is, I cannot argue with that. Everybody definitely did get,
like, literally everybody has their last scenes with Riker. Are you kidding me? And the last shot is Riker and Troy walking through the holodeck doors. It's not even the fucking ship. Like, come on.
Joe.
Come on. I told you earlier what I thought the ending should be.
Yeah.
Was Bakula should step up to the stage. Like, truth, we're headed to the fucking Federation.
Right.
It's like a huge fucking moment.
Yes.
He
And he had a big part.
You get a beauty shot of him, right? He starts into the speech. He says something like majestic, and then looks up to the sky. You pan up to the stars, and then you can do your Enterprise flybys, because that's what this moment fucking leads to.
I totally agree with you, but
you don't see him as a little fucking ant walking down the ramp while Riker and Troy are in this beautiful little fucking two-shot having a conversation. Come on.
What did they do that just to get butt shots of both of them? So let's face it, there's a little value there.
Well, we got a nice butt shot of Jolene Blaylock.
Really, the high pan away shot as you're walking through the holodeck doors. It's like, come on.
I very much appreciate any Jolene Blaylock I can get. Joe, did you have an MVP you could pull out of this?
Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit, not for this single episode, but just for his Trek career. And I for that reason, I'm going to give it to Jeffrey Combs, because as of this episode, at least to date, it was his last Trek performance after having played, I believe, like 8 different characters throughout DS9, Voyager.
You know what? Good call. Now I feel like a shit.
Well, again, Eric, I'm not doing it just for this.
Like an asshole.
Shran wasn't spectacular in this episode, but if I had to pick somebody, that would be my choice for those reasons, because you got to hand it to him for sure. So that's my pick for MVP for.
I in case anybody from the chat wants to jump through, please do. But I have to say Jolene Blaylock did really great work in this episode. Better work than this episode deserved.
Well, I mean, when she was peeling a carrot, or when she clenched her butt cheeks at the end.
I love that part. No, she has to carry the emotional baggage of dead Trip, of deceased Trip. And it sucks, because I think Trip was the most liked character on the show, honestly. But she had to, very hard to portray a Vulcan. It's very hard to portray a Vulcan in love.
Up the Vulcan thing, like. You know me and my emotional Vulcans. Like, Star Trek is fucking littered with them. I mean, you would have thought that Vulcan had given up on that.
Right.
Again, you know what I did? You know what I did after I watched this? I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I went back to Star Trek, the original series, and watched City on the Edge of Forever.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Insane storytelling.
Yeah.
That was so respectful of all those characters. And again, I keep going back because Nimoy's the gold standard.
Yeah.
Nimoy's the gold standard. You know, when it comes to watching the best friend he has in the universe, Kirk, have to not save the woman that he's fallen in love with. Like Nimoy handles that. Like it's really as an actor watching him like go through that, and you can see it's all working in his head, but he doesn't let himself get emotional. You know, it's in there, but he is so solid in that. He's so solid in that character.
Well, I'm going to back up on both of you by saying this about Jolene Blade. Like I've had some fun at her expense.
By the way,
yeah.
She's great. I like it's now again. It always sounds like I'm taking a swipe, and I'm not.
No. You shouldn't evaluate. We're talking about what the impressions it leaves, and to further credit her, and again to the episode's detriment, unfortunately, we see her as a character reacting to events that we never saw, that we were probably going to see had the show continued. So being able to pick up on that just from her bits here and there that she was allowed. After in between Riker scenes, I think speaks volumes about her performance and her mastery of the character.
I also think the little scene with Frakes is it's thankless work. It's not anything anybody asked for, and she still did a really cute job with it. She can be so adorable. Oh my God. It just reminds me of Carbon Creek. I don't know if you ever saw this, Eric, but on Carbon Creek, on the DVD, she tells this story about her mother.
Yes, well, grandmother or something, because it took place in the 1950s.
Yeah, and she and a crew of Vulcans crash land in Pennsylvania in the 1950s, and they have to get by for a long time before they can get the pieces they need to put their ship back together and get back into space. And so they live among humans for a long time. And she's telling this story over dinner to the captain and Trip, the three of them sitting together. And Bakula at one point said, what would be really fun is if we did this scene of us discussing this story as if we were really drunk. And so the three of them did it. They just did one take of them being really drunk, and she was so much better than the boys.
Oh, that's great.
You got to look it up on YouTube. It is hilarious. And
I will say that was Flobo with you on that one, Johnny? I was going to say it's a great Starbase 80 classic episode. We should repost it as a Vintage Voyages soon.
Yeah, we'll find a place to put that. Like we can put that in the comments of this video. I'll find that because I showed that clip and we didn't get copyright busted on it. Unbelievable. But man, it was funny.
You probably would now.
Exactly. They smell my blood now. Did I show you this? Raphael says, rewrite the final scene, have Dean Stockwell wake Archer up. Tell him that Ziggy says he can come home now.
He had to do this one final course correction.
I love that.
Put right one final wrong.
I like that myself. That's awfully good. All right. Well, after you get through the MVPs and all the other things, then it's time for your reward. Mr. Townsel, please share some tidbits with these lovely folks.
Well, I sure will. And of course, this is for everybody. So when I run out of air, you pipe in whenever you like. But the most interesting thing about this, we alluded to this already, is that it was questionable whether this would be a series finale at any given point.
Right.
As a matter of fact, Rick Berman, producer at the time, who'd been running the show for years, said that had the series not been canceled, this still would have been the season finale of season 4. So again, with the modifications, I'm sure. And that just kind of brings to mind just some of the great things they would have done had they been allowed to continue. I mean, we're going to get more Mirror Universe, which at that point was not done to death. Right. And we were going to see the first Starbase, the beginnings of the Romulan War. And Manny Coto, who was running the show for the final year, he established a format which they should have had from the beginning. Nice, entertaining story arcs, 2-3 part stories.
Yeah.
For the most part. And so what could have been, right? But that was a very interesting that this was always going to be an episode in some form. And as to Eric's suggestion, yeah, season finale, no problem. It could have been worked in. But there you go.
And I had read that if they, Raphael says, Joe, you're working overtime, polishing a turd into a golden nugget. Bravo.
I should have had a toy dog turd for that comment.
I don't know if I like where they were going with it, because they were considering, hey, maybe we're coming back for a season 5, and this will still be canon, and Trip will still eventually die. But if we have one more season, we're going, quote unquote, back in time before Trip dies.
Yeah.
But killing Trip was always like, I never thought that was a good idea.
Well, it was totally pointless. I guess it was, as I kind of alluded to, hey, we got to put something there that's going to, mess with people's minds. We'll just do that.
Die for something.
we got to wake Eric up. Put in a Trip death. That'll do it, maybe.
Honestly, is it Connor Trenier?
Yes,
that's the name of the actor. So he was a voiceover guy in LA. He was doing voiceovers during this period. He does not have Trip's accent, by the way. That's put on just for that character.
Good performance. It seems natural.
Seems so natural. And for all we know, he is from Florida, and he does tamp it down so he can get work. I mean, that could happen. That could be his real accent, but it wasn't as far as when my wife and I knew him. And just a lovely guy, just an absolutely terrific guy. So he was always my favorite.
Yeah, I think I never watched a lot of Enterprise, but the episodes I did genuinely enjoy all those characters, and I enjoyed them together.
Right.
I loved, and I think that's the only, that's obviously the main reason why this.
Well, I think the powers that be relied a little bit too heavily on, hey, every series, they need a couple years to get going, to build stuff. You can't rely on that in network television. You got to, sometimes you get a patch, you get a little bit of an extension. Sometimes forget it, you're done. And that's unfortunate, because if they had started off like they ended, it would have been I think it would have been a full-fledged 7 season effort for sure.
I cannot remember. Can anybody here remember what Connor Trenier and Dominic Keating's podcast is called?
It's if we see it, we're going to say, "Oh, of course it is," but it's not coming to mind. Yeah. But yeah, they do a podcast where they talk about Trek and have guest stars on, and
yeah,
I've seen it a couple times. It's not quite as entertaining as ours, but it's good.
It's all right. As long as you don't put them directly beside us, they're okay. No, they're great. Okay, and any more tidbits, Mr. Townsel?
Got a couple more, time permitting. I mean, I know we're getting to that magic mark, but I do want to put this one, if nothing else. We're going to be looking at an episode somewhere down the line, Living Witness from Voyager. And this harkens back to that a little bit, because it is those 2 episodes, this one and the other, are the only episodes where none of the characters actually appear, only holographic representations of them.
Oh, isn't that interesting? I hadn't thought about it that way.
Now, of course, and again, we'll get to that when we get to that episode. That's not quite true anyway, because the Doctor does appear as the Doctor in Living Witness, but this is totally, So it's not the first time, but it's the only time in this series that story device was used, unfortunately.
Right. One of the few tidbits that I've found is that Marina Sirtis, when asked, always says, personally, I thought it was a good episode.
Well, so
I mean-
I knew Maria would agree with me. I'm not going to go so far as say it's good, but
yeah. He said, she is quoted as saying, "I thought it was a good episode. I just didn't think it was a good last episode."
well, there
Yeah,
you go.
there you go. I think that's what we're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That is more than fair. Absolutely more than fair. And Brandon Braga dined even further on the ashes. That's an interesting way of putting it. He said at 2014 Vegas Con, "The final episode of Enterprise was an idiotic move on my part. I thought it would be cool to do a Valentine to all of Star Trek. To me, there's something really postmodern about the idea of saying this was an episode of Next Generation that you've never seen, where they go to the holodeck with their heroes aboard the Enterprise. It sounded good in my head. What ended up airing was really bad and not successful completely. It should have been Enterprise's finale. It was a misstep. It should not have been, I think, that's what he said.
Man, my gentleman, Brandon Braga's story. There was a time when because once upon a time they had a open submission policy for all the Star Trek shows of this era.
That's right.
Meaning no agent required. And so I decided to try my hand at it. Wrote a couple of next gens, one DS9, and the DS9 one. I was thinking, man, it's taking forever to hear back from them. So that's a good thing, right? They're mulling it over. Well, as luck would have it, and they didn't bite, of course. But much later, there was a small Star Trek convention in San Diego where he was speaking and he was signing out autographs and so forth. So I took in my script that I wrote, asked him to sign it. And I said, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" Because I had my letter as well. And it was signed by him. I said, "Was that him or is that a rubber stamp? What's going on?" And I asked him, if I got this letter and if it took about 6 months, can I assume that possibly there was some consideration? He said, "I signed this. If it got to my desk, it was being considered. It just didn't make the final cut."
Awesome.
So I thought that was really gratifying to know that, hey, at least I had some measure of success in that process.
Fantastic.
So, yeah. And he was a super nice guy, which is why I want to bring it up now because he was very much an artist. He was very much like focused. And I imagine if you interrupted that thought process or that creative process, he might have had a little issue with it. But otherwise, I think he was a super nice guy.
William says they're still doing the podcast, and Raphael looked it up for us. It's called the Decon Chamber.
That's it, because of the stupid Decon Chamber.
Chris says,
let me decontaminate you with your gel.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever get to see any of the decontamination chamber scenes, Eric? Where it was just basically, we were off planet. So now we go into this room wearing like jogging bras and boxer briefs and just rub gel all over each other.
It was an excuse to get Hoshi and T'Pol in their underwear. And I think the most disturbing, I loved them all for that reason, but I think the most disturbing sequence is when they had the dog in there with them.
Oh,
they
yeah.
Now Porthos. I mean, come on.
That poor dog. Chris, I have never wanted to wish something to be true more than this, that Brandon Braga's mother was Sonia Braga, married to Raul Julia, and just generally a powerhouse of a performer. And, Sonia Braga gave me many happy nights in my youth.
Okay.
Too much information? It's got to be.
No, never for me.
It's just the mac and cheese talking.
Mac and cheese.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Has that effect.
Well, we are already looking at our next episode of Retro Trekkers that's happening next week. We hope you'll join us. It's a fistful of datas from Next Generation. It is a fun episode. I had a lot of fun watching this one.
Oh, it's one of my favorites for sure. Brent Spiner's brilliant in it. He'll be probably our MVP automatically.
I think so. And then coming up on Saturday, we are 99% sure we can do this. If not, you can watch us get thrown off the air yet again.
It's public domain. They told us so. John, sorry, we meant Sunday, of course, coming Sunday.
Coming up on Sunday, yes. Thank you for making that distinction. And
we don't want people to show up on Saturday and say, they've been thrown off already.
Coming up on Thursday night on Mr. Weber's Web of Mystery, where I play you an old-time radio show, I'm going to play you a show starring Lucille Ball that is one of the sleaziest crime stories you have ever heard in your life. It is crazy sleazy.
It's going to be great. I can't wait for this
one. Joe has nicknamed it I Love Sleazy.
And I do, and we all do. What the heck?
And yes, thank you, Raphael, for helping us out on that one. I wonder if I have a banner for it. I should.
You do if you can locate it.
Because normally this one works, but not for Retro Rangers. Yes, Retro Rangers has its own channel, Retro Rangers HQ. We are not. Hey, Chris. Hey, Raphael. You were there this past Sunday. We're not suspended. They lifted the suspension.
Hallelujah.
Which is crazy. So that was a nice birthday present. I'm very happy they gave us that.
Well, John, that's like saying it was a nice birthday present and somebody took a dump on you, then cleaned it up.
You gotta appreciate the little things. You gotta appreciate the little things. Oh my God. Oh, I love it when Townsel works blue.
I figured, what better thought for the end, right? Especially for this episode.
Okay. Yep, that'll do it. Lots of great chat. Thank you very much, crew, for showing up. Thank you so much for being our guest, Eric, on this one. It was a lot of work, and we appreciate you doing it.
Absolutely, always.
I'm like the guest of a guesting. I'm guesting in your. I'm your guest that's guesting as a guest.
And you had to move to the guest room tonight, so it's all there. Yeah.
Guests of Retro Trekkers stay at the luxurious Weber Arms.
Casa de Weber.
Is that like the Sanford Arms?
All right. Oh, it was very much Sanford Arms. All right. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you, Joe.
No breakfast, please. Don't knock at the front door.
Thank you, William, and thank you, Chris, and thank you, everybody watching. Thank you so much, Raphael. That'll do it. Good night, everybody. LLJP. Good night, everybody.
Good night.